Hello, children. It's Mr. Thara here. Welcome back to term 4. And the assembly today is all about this word you can see on the screen that says resilience. Now, resilience is this term's value that we're all going to look at in detail. And we're going to try and work on how we can develop this thing called resilience. Now, in the dictionary, the definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Now, that's quite a lot to take in. What that means is it's a bit like Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. It's that ability to bounce back when things are getting tough, things are difficult. You can bounce back and move forward and carry on. Another way of describing resilience, which is probably a little bit easier to understand, is the ability to be happy and successful again after something difficult or bad has happened. Now, we're in a very, very difficult time at the moment. As I've said to you before, I've done assemblies before where we've talked about the pandemic and COVID-19 causing all sorts of difficulty for everybody, everybody in our society. And we have to better try and be resilient and look at ways in which we can overcome difficulties and bounce back. And it is very, very hard, particularly when we're in lockdown and we can't always talk to each other and things like that. But there are 7 ways in which we can help develop resilience. So I'm going to go through each of these on a separate slide, but just to give you the 7 points. The first way in which we can develop resilience is to share and talk to each other, which as I've said, is much more difficult now with lockdown, but we can still find ways in which we can share and talk to each other. And that's linked to our 5 ways to well-being, which is the stay connected element of that. The second way in which we can develop resilience is not to give up. Don't give up straight away. And that's linked into persevering, isn't it? Perseverance is that thing about always trying again, no matter how hard something is. Don't give up straight away. The third way to develop resilience is to accept what you cannot control, because there's always going to be things that we cannot control, but I'll go through that in more detail in a moment with you. Set yourself a goal. Really, really important. If you can set yourself even small goals, whether it's every day or every week or even every month, that's really worth doing. That will help develop resilience. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's also connected to our 5 ways to well-being, the learn element of that. And that goes back to a previous assembly I did where I said about not being afraid to make mistakes, because that's how actually we do learn, by making mistakes. Believe in yourself is really important. That's the 6th way to develop resilience. Have that sort of self-belief that you can do it. And the last point, really important, is to encourage each other. And that's part of the giving element of the 5 ways to well-being. Okay, so give. So if I start with the first screen, which is about sharing and talk to each other and stay connected. I mentioned this is more tricky now because we're in a pandemic where we're in lockdown and we're not allowed to go out the house, particularly while the infection rate is quite high. Hopefully it will get better and it get easier when we can perhaps come back to school altogether as a fully in school. But even so, try and find ways in which you can share and talk to each other, whether it's through devices, on the phone, or with family and friends that you can talk to on the phone, or through FaceTime, or one of the devices you've got to do that. We know that the Zoom calls are helping children stay in touch with their classes and getting some live sessions as well. But it's really important to try and talk to each other. No matter how you're feeling, it's really good to have that connection with each other. Second strategy is about this: don't give up straight away. And I've got a little slide there that says never give up. You can see that never give up image on the screen. And then I've got a little quote that says, the thought that I'll fail if I try is absolute rubbish. What that means is that you shouldn't stop trying something if you think you're going to fail. You know, it's going to be difficult sometimes. Some things are going to be challenging and you might not get there straight away, but you just don't give up straight away. That links in, as I said, to persevering, where you just try again. So we've got success is the ability to keep going when others give up. I don't need to be perfect or brilliant at something straight away. And that's really, really quite important. Some of us are what we call perfectionists, where we want to get it right straight away. And if we don't get something right straight away, we get really upset about it. But you have to accept that you may not get something right away. You might find it really difficult, sometimes in calculations, for instance, or if you learn to read a difficult word, or you learn to spell something, or something you don't get straight away. Just needs a bit of practice, and practice does make perfect eventually. So just keep trying, don't give up, and have that, that mentality, that thought process of, I'm not going to get it straight away. I've got to keep practicing, got to keep practicing. In the holiday, I've been trying to learn something on the piano, a song called Say Something, and it's really tricky, and I'm trying to play it. I'm not really a pianist at all, but I'm practicing every day, and bit by bit, I'm getting there. So it does work. You really just have to have that mindset, really. Accepting what you cannot control. Now, this is a really, really important strategy, because there are things that we have no control over. So, for instance, if you want to go out and it suddenly starts really sort of raining really heavy, now you might have to postpone or cancel your plans, or you might decide, well, actually, I'm still going to go out and have a different attitude about it. So the quote I've put here: accept the fact that you can't control everything. The only thing you can control 100% of the time is your attitude. And what that means is things may happen to you that you can't control, but how you respond to those things, you can control. So if something doesn't go your way, you don't have to get really upset and down about it. You can turn it into a positive, say, well, okay, I can't do it now, or I'm going to try it a different way. It's about thinking differently. So just accept that there are things you cannot control. I cannot control the fact that we have to close to most of our pupils in school. I was quite upset about that, worried about that, but I've had to accept that that's something I can't control. So we've got to just deal with that and try and find ways in which we can help all our children that aren't in school, which is why we're providing this remote learning for you. So it's just an example of my own personal experience where I have to accept that there are things I can't control, and you have to do the same. Set yourself a goal. Now, this is a lovely quote. It says, a goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. And what that means is it's no point giving yourself a goal that you know you can achieve. It's good to give yourself a slightly more challenging goal to really push yourself, that's going to scare you a little bit, but when you achieve that goal, it's going to be really exciting, isn't it? So that's something to think about. Think about setting yourself some goals. Now, I've done an assembly about this before, about do not be afraid to make mistakes, because this is how we learn. I'm going to make mistakes on this assembly, but I've got better at my assemblies because I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. And you're gonna do things which you're gonna make mistakes, but as long as you learn from them, that's the good thing. That's what learning's all about. And actually, the quote here: the only people who never make mistakes are those who never try anything. Well, we don't want to be one of those people, do we, where we just don't try anything because we're worried about making mistakes, we're worried about looking silly. And actually, you've got to put yourself out there. It goes back to the previous value about having a go at something, which is that courage thing, isn't it? Having a go. And that's my last assembly, was don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just give it a go and just try it. Now, really key here is believing in yourself, this self-belief. And there's an image there of the shadow of this person, like a superhero. And you've got to have that superhero feeling, haven't you, inside? You've got to have that self-belief. Now, I know at school, for instance, in maths, we have this, you can do it, that sort of attitude. And it's really important that you have that view of yourself that, you may never do it at this point, you may never do it yet, but you will be able to do something in time. And that goes back to that practicing and keep going at something, never giving up. So have that self-belief. You can actually do it. You can achieve anything you want to achieve if you put your mind to it. It's really key. And the last thing, the last strategy for helping your resilience is to encourage each other. It's really important as a school, and even when you're at home, to support each other, encourage each other. And I mentioned once in my assembly that laughing at each other putting people down. That's not a good way to help develop each other's resilience. It's really important to encourage each other, support each other, and say, you can do it. That's fantastic. So encouragement is really, really key. Okay, children, thank you for listening to my assembly. I hope that's helped. So as I say, think about this, go back to the first slide. Think about developing your resilience. Think about all those things that you can do: sharing, talking to each other, don't give up straight away, accepting what you cannot control, set yourself a goal, don't be afraid to make mistakes, believe in yourself, and encourage each other. And those ways will help you develop this this thing that we call resilience. And as I say, it's the capacity to recover quickly from things that are difficult, or the ability to be happy and successful again after something difficult or bad has happened. Remember, you can do it. Take care, everyone. Speak to you soon.